All right, this is going to be my CMAP number 2. My name is Roka Budding, and I'm part of the data structures class for 10 a.m. And this is my CMAP for recursive function. So we start off with the top right here for definition. So for this function, we're just printing an array recursively. And the definition of recursive is a type of function that will call itself to repeat a certain task by using the previous result. What this means is essentially the function that we make right around here, the function that we make will be calling itself within its own function to repeat and go through the loop, essentially making an entire loop. In context of our given problem, the recursive print array function is built upon key concepts that allows us to function to call itself to print through the array. Essentially, we're just trying to go through an array and print it, an array that's formed by us. So these key concepts include the print array function and also calling the function and defining the array within the main. More importantly, let's do the print array function first. So in the function, we have to make sure that the function will not return anything. So it is a void type. Since it is only just printing out things and not returning anything, it is a void type function. The function will then take an array as size variable, an index variable, and will go through the array into index size. So the function takes different parameters. You can see here. It takes 3 different parameters here, or 2 different parameters in this case, and sets the index to 0 to be used throughout the entire function. And in this part right here, we'll go through the array into the index equals size. It's for the base case, but then we'll get to that later. In order to make this function recursive, we must use 2 different cases that can call itself within the function. This isn't just for this kind of function, but for all recursive functions in general, there will be always a base case and recursive case. But for this instance, our base case, in a context of our problem, will return nothing, since the function returns void as seen here. It returns nothing. And once the conditions are met, it breaks the recursive loop. In our own function, for our own example, if the index is equal to the size of the array, then the recursion stops. And it can be shown right here. If the index of our array is equal to the size of the array, then our recursive loop will stop. But how do we get to the recursive loop? So by using a recursive case, we can now start using the recursive loop. So to start the recursive loop, we have to make sure that the function does create this recursive loop by having a certain program conditions that are supposed to be met. And in this case, we know to use the recursive loop as long as the index does not equal the size. So while the index does not equal size, the function will print the current element in an array based on whatever index that we are on. See here, this is the CF of the array printing out. It can also be seen inside the CMAP itself, saying array index. And then the index, again, will add 1 to itself. So it keep continuing this loop, index plus 1 right here. And by having index plus 1, it keeps this loop going, and the index keeps going until it gets to a size. And while we keep going, the function itself calls for the function for its own function. So it keeps repeatedly going and going and going until this condition is met, the base case. And that's how this recursive function works. By having this base case and some kind of recursive case, we're now making a function that repeatedly calls itself until a certain conditions are met. But in the main case, in the main function, we use this recursive case by first defining an array that's filled with loaded variables, and also the size of the array that's calculated in order to have a base case that we can use for the actual function. And then the function is then called right here. And we plug in the array parameter and the size parameters to help recursively not change, but rather print out whatever is in the array. So by calling the function within the main, we also print it out here. So yeah, that's how this function works. And this is my CMAP. Thank you.